This week we'll carefully consider matters of civil rights and civil liberties, how we define them, how we have changed our views about them over time in terms of our policy through legislation and through the courts, how we still engage in robust and often heartfelt conflicts and debates about them now. Civil rights and civil liberties are part of our unending struggle in American politics to create a more perfect union. The dispute over civil rights and liberties were important at the time of the Constitution. In fact, the Constitution would not have been ratified by the states unless there were assurances given that civil liberties would be protected through the Bill of Rights. Liberties that are well known to many of us, at least abstractly: rights to freedom of speech, the freedom of press, freedom of religion, the right to exercise the ability to own guns, freedom from harsh punishment, from undue searches by the government, and so forth. So, a wide variety of rights and liberties. At the beginning, you need to be clear about the difference between civil liberties and civil rights. Sometimes there is some overlap. The key distinction, though, involves civil liberties are things that you would already be able to do unless the government restricts your ability to do that. So you have the ability to speak freely unless the government clamps down on that ability. So civil liberty is free speech is a civil liberty. I can do it unless the government stops me. Matters of civil rights are usually activities that cannot be conducted unless the government actually provides a structure for you to do that, particularly in protecting the rights of individual groups or particular groups. So, for example, voting is a right. I can't vote. I would not be able to vote in an election unless the government establishes a way for me actually to cast my ballots. And groups may not be able to participate. For example, historically, women, African Americans, were not able to vote unless that civil right was protected by the government. So the government has to say, yes, women, yes, African Americans, you can vote. We will protect that right and make sure that you are able to exercise it. So key distinctions between rights and liberties. In both cases, though, the tension that we see today is really the same one that the constitutional framers faced when they wrote the Constitution. We talked about that earlier. I talked about that a little bit last week in thinking about the tension between liberty. We want to preserve it. In order, we want to protect it, and we want enough order and liberty that our society is well functioning and that the population is able to prosper individually and as a society. So let me give you an example of it that's in the news a lot lately, and I'm sure it'll be in the news this summer or this fall. It has to do with can transgender individuals use the bathrooms for the sex that they identify with. So, for example, a trans man, individual who is a transsexual who identifies as being male, can the person use the male bathroom, which matches the identification, or must that person use the female bathroom, which matches the sex that was listed on that certificate at birth? Okay. As a matter of liberty, we might want to think that, well, individuals should be able to go to the bathroom in the place that matches their preferences, their desire to merely go to the bathroom without government restriction. On the other hand, those who oppose the ability of trans individuals to use the bathroom of their choice are concerned about the threat to public order. So, for example, would allowing trans people to use bathrooms of their identity, would that somehow create social chaos in the schools or a threat to the security of those using the restroom and so forth? So the tension between liberty and order, that's going to play out. The transgender bathroom bill have gone to the Supreme Court. They're now back at the lower courts. The Supreme Court is likely to consider them later. But that is just one indication that these disputes over how much liberty and how much order, what are the nature of our civil rights and liberties, what are their limitations, that has been part of the American political experience since the inception of our country and will be so long as we have a country in which to fight over these matters. Enjoy this chapter, really focus on it. pay particular attention to the kind of questions it raises that you may want to pursue in your own creation projects. So, what are the limitations to voting rights? Should we have voting rights for literally everyone in the United States? What would that mean? Should we restrict the rights to jobs to only those with proper documentation in the United States? Should we treat males and females differently in our social environment by law and policy? And if so, how? We can think of lots of issues that would involve our civil liberties and rights, and we should think about them. Read it carefully, consider it closely. Let me know if you have any questions or concerns. Let's begin. Thanks.